take a look at that. A beautiful outlook here at Sydney Motorsport Park.
Looking forward to it, Mike. And first up on the track for today, Heritage Touring Cars. These are the Group A and C cars, the legends of Bathurst, as it were. Terry Lawler will start from pole position for this one. It's the GIO Nissan GT-R off pole position. Jim Richards in his former championship-winning GTS-R Skyline. He's behind the wheel. Sierras, lots of Commodores. Glenn Featherstone there starting from 6th. The ex-Larry Perkins Holden Special Vehicles car. Its first race start in 24 years. Rolling start, drying track. I'd want to be in the four-wheel drive Nissan now as it rockets away to turn 1.
Look at this, straight off the starting line. But Jimmy Richards going with it on the outside as they sweep into turn number 1. Then the Caltech Sierra right behind them, but no doubt about it, the man who's going to lead this is Terry Lawler going down into turn number 2. Look at the gap he's spread over Jimmy Richards as they go to turn 2 now.
Oh, car lost. Paul Axiak in the ex-Tony Mulvihill Comet. Oh, he's into the tyre wall as well. That's a real shame. He's been running really well this weekend, so he's off the road. It's Terry Lawler leading the way. Then Jim Richards, Craig Markland in the Caltech Sierra, Anthony Compton next through, but safety car will be called because of that Commodore off the road. Let's have a look again on the Valvoline replay. I reckon he's just lost the rears on the way into turn 2, and lucky not to take Aaron Tebb out in the Jag Parts Commodore.
And once you get on the grass here and it's wet, you know what the end result is going to be, and that's exactly what happened. Fortunately, Paul Axiak is quite okay, but the car is out.
So, restart here at Sydney Motorsport Park, and Terry Lawler will lead us back to the control line. Great mix of cars. Adam Workman there in the Nissan Bluebird Turbo is the best of the Group C cars as we ride on board with the 7-time Bathurst winner, the Valvoline in-car in that howling GTS-R 6-cylinder Skyline. He really knows how to run this car. This is the actual car he used to win the championship back in 1990. It's great to see him still behind the wheel.
Well, he's in terrific form, Jimmy Richards. Can drive anything. They sweep it to turn number 1 now on the restart, and the man who leads them is Lawler. There's the gap he has over Richards. Then Markham is the next one up on the inside. We
should remind our viewers too, Mike, that these are the legitimate cars. They are the actual cars that raced back in the day, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. Ed Singleton there in the STP Roadways Alan Grice Commodore. You can't build a replica. You can't come along with a lookalike. These are the real deal.
Well, you look at John Douglas here as we go on board with the Mazda RX-7 carrying our Valvoline race cam. Great view, actually, showing you all of the racetrack and just how busy he is behind the wheel on a very wet but drying track.
Jimmy Richards hanging tough here with Terry Lawler in the GT-R. Good fight here. Mark Taylor and Aaron Tebb in the Jag Parts Commodore. I think Aaron is younger than that car, actually, that he's driving, but he knows how to drive it. This is the extra long version of Sydney Motorsport Park, the Brabham circuit. So this extra little piece that was added a couple of years ago. Great news if you're in a little BMW M3 or the like. It's a little bit tricky if you're in a V8 Commodore or a turbocharged Sierra.
And we'll look forward to seeing the small minis against the V8s a little later in the program. They'll be tight through here. Jimmy Richards, I think, is doing a fabulous job here as they sweep into the right-hander. There as we go on board. Jim showing you the gap back to the race leader. Whether he can peg it back, I don't know, but he looks pretty good at this stage of the race as they come down to the right-hander.
Of course, the car he's chasing, the GT-R, the R32 Skyline, was the car that replaced this car, the HR31 as it was affectionately known, run by the Nissan factory team. Fred Gibson and Mark Scape heavily involved in that program, and JR is hustling away here. Remember, this is just a rear-wheel drive car. He's up against a four-wheel drive twin-turbo GIO Nissan GT-R of Terry Lawler. Craig Markland's hanging on in the Caltech Sierra, and there's a bit of a gap back. Back in the day, a VL and a VK Commodore would have struggled to maintain the pace with the Sierras and particularly those Nissans.
And David Toe going through there in the ex-JPS BMW. And there they have stretched out going down the front straight into turn number 1. The real race in here is between first and second. Jimmy Richards going after the race lead, but as their line astern coming past the start-finishing line, we look back through the field and see Mark Withers making a run in the final lap. So it's still Lawler who runs out of this corner, running pretty smartly with Jim Richards still looking for an inside pass.
And the ironic thing is too, Mike, that Terry Lawler, who leads the way in the GIO Nissan, used to have the Caltech Sierra. There's a bit of a car swap between the Marklands and Lawler in the last little while. So he's jumped from the Sierra to the Nissan, back on board the Valvoline in-car with Jim Richards. And he's just keeping in touch here. He's doing all that he can do to keep the pressure on that GT-R.
Well, the big gap is going to come here on the inside as they sweep through the top part of the circuit. This is really Lawler's race to lose because Richards has made up incredible ground in the last half lap of this race.
But it's this part of the track, Mike, where the traction of the four-wheel drive at the low-speed corners really does shine through. Craig Markman's doing a great job. Hasn't got much experience in that ex-Colin Bond Sierra. In fact, that's the last Group A Sierra ever built. It did 7 laps of racing at Bathurst. That's it in the Group A era. It's one of the most lightly raced Group A cars in the world as we're on this final lap with the Heritage Touring cars at Sydney Motorsport Park. And it looks like Terry Lawler is on his way home to another win in the car that's was dominant in the 90s, and it's still dominant today in Heritage Touring cars.
Well, Lawler comes out of the right-hander going straight. You would expect Lawler to win this one, but I tell you what, Jimmy Richards has done a fabulous job keeping in touch and closing up as they come to the last corner.
Fantastic to bring back memories of the Group A era and Group C touring car racing. Heritage Touring Cars doing a fantastic job in recent years of keeping that era alive. Next year they are going to be bigger and they're going to be better with more cars on the grid. Jim Richards has been big and better. He's been keeping the pressure on. The run to the line, we'll see Terry Lawler get home and win this one at Muscle Car Masters. So it's Nissan 1-2, Sierras 3 and 4. Mark Taylor is the best of the Commodores. He's home in P5. David Toe in the BMW M3 and 6 from Aaron Tebb. And Adam Workman, the ex-Works Nissan Bluebird, best of the Group C cars, rounding out the top 8.